Well, I'd say for all the time we've had already, got one last step to take on this gingerbread man. Now on this one, I'd say that these lines have had plenty of time to dry out. This might not be the same one I've been showing you in several videos, but as for the last step where we finally just put on my initials in the year, I'm going to go ahead and make that demonstration right here, and we put it on the butt of the gingerbread man, which is about the place where the heel of the sock is. And first of all, put my initials down as J, D, P, and then it kind of came out a little smeared there because I'll tell you, I had to unclog this bottle, so it's kind of squirting out a little more, but that's going to all be okay once it comes down to time to sell the product. But I put my initials here, and the year is 2023, so I'm going to put that on there as well. And so that's where it all comes down to this, you know, and set it aside so that can dry. I've got one more sock left of one, which has been in my satchel just in case I'd want to take it anywhere with me and work on it. But the good thing is that I think we've been doing so much for videos that we're probably just about down to having used all of them. And I'd say that perhaps finding that top that I just lost to that bottle there, I mean, after I stop the video or something, I can go look for that, try to find it. But I do want to show you a little more what I've done with this last crimson red Santa, the one to which I gave the gold ruffles and the green eyes. And then I decided to paint the backpack burnt umber after all this decision making, and decided to paint the gloves midnight garden. So there's probably, I see a few places where once we get down to finishing this, there's probably going to be a few more touch-ups to add. But I'd say as we might take things just a little bit further here, got to see if I can find a little, and I'll tell you, I've probably put them away somewhere, probably left them on that sink where I went over to rinse them out. But I'd say you've pretty much kind of seen the demonstrations by now on how I actually do those. And I'd say as far as anything else is concerned for this video, there's probably going to come a time when I'm going to come back on to add a little more to it as soon as I can, and probably even by then perhaps have the cutting boards ready, hopefully. Don't know whether that project is going to be demonstrated on here or not, but might have to cut out more than one and work on one first just to see how well I do. Thanks. Well, since I went over to the sink to check for my brushes, I decided I might come back on here to demonstrate a little bit more in my painting here. And where you can see most of this, how it's kind of already been done, I've got a little more to add. I'm going to try to use a little more crimson red to finish off the coat here. Kind of decided it would be a good idea to come on and let you all watch me paint. That would be a good addition to the video. That's what I was going to do before I turned it off because I couldn't find my brushes, but since I found them after I turned it off, decided I'd get back on here and let you all see a little bit more what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and let you all know that this is the little bit of work as far as I can see, and gonna try to make it along to where we finally got the coat on. And we always add an extra coat to the sleeve after it dries once we do go to working on the coat, and try to make it so it kind of stands out in color. And see, it's just kind of a time in my life where, with all I've been through today, and all, it's kind of a day to kind of put things aside and try to, focus on our work, focus on a little relaxation here. And this was a good time, I figured, to try to paint the little coats out and make them so they're gonna brighten our days, shine like the nights, and show us all a little character in what we do and how we do it, and how it's gonna show in our lives once we get it all done here. Make it so we see a little light of day, and happening things happening too. Little work goes its ways and makes us all see a little bright light. And I'd say for some of the accounts I follow online, there's just so much I learn about woodworking, wood carving, wood burning, painting, all the rest. Even some stuff about carpentry I see. That's kind of what we're going to see when we all come around to this and finally just put a little extra time and work into what we do, make it all beautifully colored, and all the things we see in life, how they're going to be, what they are all going to be like. I say, oh, the work that shall work its way in us, I say, and finally kind of come down to where we do a little more, and maybe even just show a little time when it's just too wet and rainy outside to go outside and use the rotary tool for any demonstration. But you see, we've already come a long way on these Santa Clauses here that are from the genuine and African mahoganies, and decide that we might even talk just a little bit more even as we come around, and let's say maybe try putting some extra work into these little poplar ones. I took these to Guild and did a little carving on them the other day, and so we've already kind of demonstrated in a video before how we make Santas like this, but I'd say for the things I've laid down around here lately, there's probably some things that could show up in random places. I mean, I tell you, my things, they fall everywhere, they get lost everywhere, they get a little hard to find now and then, and so I say that there's probably a place around here where, and there is my cap to my paint that I lost, and place it back on, and and I find my thumb guard here in the floor. This was the one I laid up here on the couch with my glove a while ago, and probably got it a little mislaid or misplaced. So we've got plenty of knives in here. We can kind of come carving along on this, and I told you the little story in part 3 of this series about what that little girl was carving, the one I was asking prayers for, and I was kind of talking to her a little bit while I was at Guild carving on these, and from what we just kind of had our little discussions about, that was just sort of the way it all just had to go and how it all just had to be. And then it'll come down to where we work a little ways into this and see how it's all going to be to come along, make our way through the work, shine our lights in what we do, manage our time in what we do. I say this is a fairly soft and simple wood to carve with a knife. Some people say that poplar is hard, but it all depends on the strength of your hands. For me, it's not all that hard, and sometimes it just depends on which part of the tree you get it out of. But I tell you all, this wood, I mean, it's green when it's like this, but when you dye it, it kind of turns to a dark green that makes it look like black. I'm trying not to say dye it, but I mean, when you soak it in linseed oil, that is, you know, that's when the wood will, when the poplar of the wood will get a little darker, and this probably comes from a part of the poplar tree that has the darker color in it. I once carved a chess set where I carved one side out of poplar and another side out of sassafras, but there were some pieces on the poplar side that came out a little darker than the others. That was my very first try at a chess set, and it wasn't a really good one because it just was quite a piece of work, and I mean, it would be hard to tell them apart when you really go to working with it, because the sassafras is kind of brown while the poplar is kind of green, and it's harder to separate the dark poplar pieces from the light poplar pieces. And there's a lot that I learn about how a tree can come, as far as how, you know, as far as how hard or soft the wood is going to be. Sometimes it can depend on whether it's the sapwood on the outside of the trunk or the heartwood that is deep down in the center of the tree. Sometimes it can depend on whether the tree grows up on a hill or whether the tree grows down near water, and things like that can all factor in. So there's just a lot to consider when it comes to this. I've mentioned in some of my last videos Calvin Grant, who had passed away in the last year or so, and how it always was when I kind of did a little carving with him sometimes, and we even turned some pins together in his garage. And it's kind of like how I purchased a piece of yellow heart at Manny's woodworker's place, which was a place we often went. And though the yellow heart, it had a very curry type of smell to it like yellow heart does, Calvin Grant thought it was maple because it was so hard it didn't turn real easily. They say that purple heart and yellow heart are both woods that are not soft enough to carve, but soft in a way that they're supposed to be easy to turn on the lathe. But I told him a little bit more news I got, because I saw a piece of yellow heart there that seemed like it was slightly different in the grain, slightly different shaded in the color, and heard that it learned from the guy who helped Manny at Manny's woodworker's place that it can all just depend on things like whether the tree grows near water or whether it grows up on a hill, and that those can just determine how hard or soft the wood is going to be, how much sapwood there's going to be, how much heartwood there's going to be. And so this is how the work shall come along, and I'd be happy to keep demonstrating more as we go a little further, take this up to another level. I say this is coming along just fine as far as what I can tell here, and getting this along. I finally would say I've gotten the most part carved out of both of these. Maybe for another video we might take care of the boots. But I've decided, as for these little Santa Clauses here, where I've already kind of showed you all what I did with the rotary tool last time around, this time I'm going to, as I said I would do, take the knife and straighten out that area that is back there along the elbows and where the arms meet with the back, and take care of just little things that go in that little area of the wood, and try to make the lines so they're all gonna come out just the right way, just like they need to be, just like they ought to be. And so it's going to make it so we're going to see a little image that shall come out of the St. Nicholas carving, and finally get it so we see it come out just like this. And there's another one here. Yeah, this one here, it's the other one I've already carved out the hood into, so we're going to take the same little step along this one and try to remove with the knife some of those little burn ends that were made in by the power carver, the rotary tool, and try to get those removed, make them so we're going to see things just as they truly ought to be, I say. And I tell y'all that with a little work coming this way, I look forward to having more videos to share. And this is how we're going to take it along, make it so it comes out true and right, and see how we will make it do its own righteous thing here. Try to remove the wood that's along here, take it along to the elbow, to the shoulder, to the back of the arm, to the back of the body, and place the work as it shall come along. Make it so we see a little bright day and bright night in the work we're doing. I say it's always going to be simple along to learn little things like these. Once you really get the hang into them. And so I say that this little work shall find its way to us, make its way through us. We see how bright the light is and how it shines in the darkness of the night. It's still day outside though as I carve, and so we kind of got little places here just to take out a few. Probably forgot to mention that I haven't really gone out and hosted or set up at McConnell Springs at Founders Day in so many years, but it's always been a place where even while you were out there with your display, you could bring along stuff to carve and work on carving other things while you were out there just simply waiting for a customer or so. I decide with this, we'll go ahead and remove what's on the back here. Little places where the wood was just burnt a little bit by the blade of the saw. Try to remove that and take care of that little step and make it so it's going to be like a little Santa Claus ought to be. And so we're going to lighten it all down, make it so it's going to, and I think we're going to have to sand this a little more because we're kind of losing places in the grain here. Kind of cut this out on the saw with the grain being a little crooked, so there might be a little way to make out the little curves in the hat here, make it so it's going to be a little right type of way to go about this and say that Oh, the work as it comes, work as it goes. I say we're brightening our days, brightening our nights, thinking about all the things that these shows are going to be once they finally come along to us. And so we gotta shave this away, try to make it so it's going to be a little light unto us, make us all see a little bit better in our days. I say there's probably going to be some work to come along on the next one too, and I think we're going to end this. I'd say it's pretty much taken care of on this one because there's not much saw burn left on this, on the back of this one, but it's the work that's going to come along, make its way to us, make its way through us, and finally get a way to get down to where the wood is burnt by the saw and stuff, making it so it's going to brighten our ways, brighten our days. I say this little light is driving us to the point where we shall see Santa Claus come out through the chimney sweep, and finally I say probably something here we might end up having to sand away because the knife is not getting it too well. I guess I'd say we can get some of it away if we really work at it, make it so it simmers and shines. I say, oh, I tell y'all, little work shall brighten our way. It's going to work its way to us, work its way through us, and finally we're going to see how this good old Santa here shall come along, and then finally come down to that last little point where we take care of this part, and so try to drive it away, work it away. And there's going to be another step or two where we're going to get rid of some more of the wood that's on there and try to make it blast its way out, make it shine its way out. So as for the work, it shall come along this way, make it so we see things come out just a little brighter so. And then finally we probably got it down now to what it ought to be and where it ought to be, and see as for the lines come along and make it go. And these didn't turn out perfectly even or perfectly equal, but we'll kind of work on them a little bit more as we come along and see how much better they can be. I do want to say that I thank you all for watching, and probably in the next video or so it'll probably be dry enough that we can go outside to do a little more rotary tool demonstration. And finally, make a last little cut or two to get rid of that little splinter. And finally, I want to close it all off and say thanks for watching.